Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are very glad to have you here today. We are going to give people a couple minutes to jump on and get settled in. As we wait, just a reminder that we are going to be using Canva later on in this workshop. So if you could take a minute to make sure you're logged in and you have it up on your screen behind this webinar, that'll save us a little time later on. But we'll wait just a minute or two to let people get settled in. Well, on behalf of the National Press Club Journalism Institute, it's my pleasure to welcome you to Design Hacks, How to Create Social Media Graphics When It's Not Really part of your day-to-day. I'm really excited to have a full house for this program. We had a number of people register, and I know we'll sign on as we continue. I'm going to take a minute and share my screen so that we can get into our slideshow. Oh, no, that's not right. Sorry about that. Give me just a minute. Technical fun, right? Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. So welcome to the program. Design Hacks is a series that's geared toward people who are new to design or who don't have access to some of the higher power tools that some of the professional graphic artists have. My name is Beth Francesco. I'm the Senior Director of the National Press Club Journalism Institute. And as my title says, I'm not a designer. Here's a little picture of me, a self-portrait to show you I'm also not a very good artist. I'm not a day-to-day designer by title. I haven't been in years. I got my start in design and editing, but I do a lot of varying work, some administrative tasks, some strategic thinking, a lot of different things. But I find that design work typically ends up on my desk because I have an interest and I have some experience in it. But switching gears, as I'm sure many of you know, switching gears from what you're normally scheduled to do or planning to do to handle a quick social media graphic, design a quick web image can be really challenging, especially coming up with something on deadline. It also can be really tricky to take someone else's idea and bring it to life visually. So today what we're doing is sharing some of the tools and methods that have helped me in my work. We're certainly not going to cover in-depth design or advanced design skills, but we're going to cover some approaches that hopefully can help you hack your design skills, hack your time, so that all of this work can be a little bit easier to approach from day to day. I hope you're going to learn something as we go forward. So today, our goals are going to be pretty simple. Design is a creative endeavor, and if you open your mind to it, it can be a lot of fun. So we're going to focus on some of the fun there. This session is designed to be interactive, so I'm hoping that you will participate with some of the exercises that we have going throughout the slideshow and also when we get into the workshop portion. I'm really pleased that you've dedicated some time to commit to this learning. So please respond to the prompts and let go of being right or wrong. Design is a lot of touch and feel, a lot of trial and error, and with that practice, you'll build some confidence. One way to kickstart that confidence is to agree that your first few designs, maybe even your first 20 designs, are not going to be great. I have started things that I thought were going to be wonderful and they turned out to be garbage, but the idea is to have fun with what you're doing. The best designers and innovators are constantly failing forward. They're trying something, seeing it doesn't work, and trying to find solutions to problems. So a few things to note before we get into some of the key focuses is after this presentation, you will receive the slides. So definitely know that you're going to get the slides. We're going to be using Canva today, as I mentioned, but it's not the only tool available for novice designers. It is a good way to get started and practice elevating your skills and refining your own style. If you have questions during the presentation and during the workshop, please use the Q&A function in Zoom. It's a button on the bottom of your screen. And then my amazing colleague, Holly, who's hanging out in the background, is going to let me know when you have questions to ask, and she will also be answering some of those as well. So, a couple of things. Let's get started into the focus. So, at the end of the day, design is dictated by content. You wouldn't necessarily arrange your living room without knowing what furniture, lamps, photos, art pieces that you have. So you really have to start thinking about what you have in hand before you start designing. A lot of people think about design as making something pretty, which is great, but you have to have a foundation. For a designer of any sort, whether you're in advertising, you're a newspaper designer, web designer, whether you're in a creative agency or a business owner even, it's important to know what kind of photos you have, how long the text is that you're working within, what's the most important message to get across, and so on. So when it comes to social media platforms, you're really in the same boat, only you have much less space to play within than you would like a flyer or a brochure or something like that. These boundaries can really feel like they're squeezing your creativity, but in reality, it's important to embrace boundaries. It gives you a chance to think about problem solving, maximizing your space, and really thinking about solving the problem. How is the reader going to take in this information while scrolling through tons of other feeds that are coming through their social channels? So let's just take, for example, I have up on the screen right now. You've been asked, put yourself in these shoes. You've been asked to make some social graphics to announce that your organization, whether it's a news organization or a business, a nonprofit, your organization, it's the 40th anniversary, so it's 40 years old. We need to have a draft of a social graphic to share celebrating or announcing the organization's 40th anniversary. That's all the instruction you get, right? This has all happened to us, right? So the first question that we would want to ask if we're thinking about, in terms of content dictating design is, what do we have in hand that we can use to illustrate this message of turning 40? So if we start with the basics, we know that, like in my case, the National Press Club Journalism Institute, I've got two logos I can pick from. We have the name itself. We have the year, right? It's the 40th anniversary, so we can play with 40. We have 1980, that would have been 40 years ago. It's an anniversary, so there's some kind of tone that we can pull from an anniversary. So maybe a celebration of some sort. Is that enough information to work with to start designing? Raise your hand in Zoom if you think that that's enough information to start a graphic. Okay. That's good. A lot of you think that that's enough information. That's fantastic. So what we really are starting to think about here is, if we have only those things, what are some of the examples that we can that we can start playing with? What are some of the things? So I came up with a couple. This first one, which is a little bit celebratory. We've got the clink. We've got the digital toast aspect, if that's what we decide to do. This next one is more of the birthday tone with the candles and a call to action to donate. This next one is, a different tone. It's straightforward. We've got the message about service and being there when you need us and for how long. So there's different ways to take that. So in the chat, something that I wanted us to maybe think about is word association. When I say anniversary, when we go back to the objects that we have and we think about tone, if I say anniversary in the chat, what's the first image that comes to mind? If I say anniversary, we see cake, we see wedding rings, okay. Very relationship heavy. A balloon, excellent. Then and now is great. It's a great concept to work with. Confetti, these are great. Champagne glasses, wonderful. When I say birthday, what comes to mind? Cake. Cake, candles, presents, excellent. Okay, so what if then, these are all wonderful, and we're all thinking, we have these like immediate tangible images that go with some of our, some of these words, which is fantastic, all based on universal experiences. What about images for party? If I say party, what comes to mind? Balloons? Oh, this is great. Not corporate, love that. Excellent, so keg of beer. Excellent, so you can see that we have a lot of like very common experiences related to the words that come about when we start thinking about what our tone is, right? So all of those things can take us in different directions. So if I'm going back to our examples, you know, this tone with anniversary and the champagne clinking and things like that is a very different tone from, you know, a birthday cake candle. Like this is a little bit less maybe glamorous. This again, too, very just straightforward utility, but clean design. So the point here is that there are lots of different interpretations of an event, of something that you might be trying to illustrate. So it's really important to define the goal from the start to limit frustrations and be efficient with your time. When we're talking about hacks, like a lot of this is about saving time and saving energy so that you can really devote most of your time and energy toward being creative. So starting with the end in mind can really help you refine your message and the visuals, the illustrations, the photos, the colors that guide the piece that you're working on. This is a huge time and design hack. Time spent thinking can help you save you on editing later, especially if you're working on a project to deliver to someone else for approval. They may have something very much different in mind than what you're like what you have envisioned. So defining messages early is important. Without a purpose, too, an image can just simply become noise. So you have to think, what are you trying to say with this message? When it comes, you know, what is the end goal for the viewer, the call to action? So some examples on here, if you're a news organization, do you want people to, this is what we see a lot of time, we're wanting people to read through the rest of the story, follow particular coverage, subscribe to a newsletter, share. We're asking people to do something. So it really needs to be, the selections for the designer are really have to be focused around, pushing that particular purpose. You know, if you're a nonprofit, we are a nonprofit, so we have messaging and images related to donating. If you're a business, you may want someone to click through to buy something or to browse, maybe use a coupon. So all of those play into the decisions you make as a designer. So take a minute and think about a graphic that you, specifically you, or your organization needs to create, and an action you'd want your readers to take that you can use social media to convey. So if you're a reporter, it might be that you want to promote a story. If you are a small business owner, maybe you want to promote a sale or get people to use a coupon or take part in a promotion. If you're a nonprofit, you're entering your end of year giving campaign. This is what I want you to think about. What is a need that you have now? And if you're willing, share it in your chat right now. It's great. Help educate people about research. Create a public health campaign, that's great. Promote a business. Promote a new magazine. These are all great and very specific. Getting people to donate. This is fantastic. These are all very specific and very much focused on calls to action. Excellent. So keep your purpose in mind as we work through this. And if you haven't answered in chat, don't worry. It's really important for you to think this through from the start. So I guess the message here would be that once you know your end result, you can work on the message itself, the language itself. Words matter, and the fewer the better in social media graphics. Just a few things to keep in mind is that you have some helpers with social media graphics. They're not standing on their own. You have share text. Most feature a kicker or tagline that can help guide people through the image itself. So here, the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, one of our partners, has a strong headline, like what this is going to be when you click on it, and then it guides you to look at and answer the next question. Where can I call? Like, where does this apply? And then you've got some supplemental material, but really the share text at the top can help provide context for your visual element. You definitely don't want to sub cute for clarity. So being clear from the start about what people can get is really important. Here's another example, share text with extra information. You can see here, this is a different way to present some basic information, who, when, where, with a strong visual image. So let's play a quick game. I've got several quotes on here, okay? So I'm gonna ask you to be the designer. Thinking about what we just heard about having a purpose and keeping things simple, which of these quotes, and I'll give you a sec to read through them, but which of these quotes would be best for a social media graphic? Once you've read through them, answer in the chat with your response, A, B, or C, your vote. Ooh, lots of votes for C. Excellent. Nobody's voting for B, interesting. Okay, so C is the clear, overwhelming winner. But I would say, oh, B is too long. That's a good point, unless we're thinking about purpose, because we didn't define a purpose from the start. We said we want a quote card. We don't necessarily say what our purpose is. So let's look at some of these actually illustrated. So first, oops, it's going too fast, it's getting away from me. Here's one. If the purpose works, if the purpose is to educate, this quote is actually from one of the Institute's programs that summed up a lesson about writing memoir. So paired with share text that included a link to the video and more about the program, this visual actually worked pretty well. If we look at B, which we all agreed was quite long, reading the content of it, the purpose is to give people some heads up about how to prepare for a conference in the digital environment. We broke up the quote. A designer could make a visual checklist rather than use a direct quote like we typically see. This is in checklist form, but you're pointing out that Natalie points out that bullets are very useful. Absolutely. So it's taking what content you have and the purpose. I only gave you the content, no purpose. So you could see where we might discount something that could actually be a pretty cool. That's a good point, Julie, about the president being called out. In the share text, she was. That's a good point in the graphic itself. And then of course C, which is a quote from FEC Commissioner Ellen Weintraub. She also was a speaker at one of our Institute events this year. Just keeping it simple, drawing attention to a dramatic quote from a high-ranking source. So you can see that the key is really practicing purpose from the start to narrow in on every decision that you make. Narrowing in can actually eliminate boundaries that can cause design block. The next several slides, I want to be mindful of time so we get some practice in. The next several slides, I've got some detail. I'm not going to go super in depth on each one of them. They are slides from the previous presentation. We will send you a link to if you haven't seen it already. But I do want to touch on using color. Colors, fonts, photos, and illustration styles all combine to build your brand identity. So it's important as you're thinking quickly as a designer and responding to design requests or needs that, is the organization or business you represent modern, classic, trendy, innovative. Your selections as a designer are going to reinforce that sense of mission and the mode of operation. Every selection as you're designing, colors, fonts, everything has a purpose. So let's try something also using the chat. When I say modern, what color comes to mind? Modern. Lots of different interpretations of modern. I love this. This is great. What we often see is like black, white, silver, and red. So it's interesting to see these different colors as modern is attempted now. What about the word fresh? Green. Greens and yellows, white. Excellent, excellent. We attach feelings to color. We can see that like our experiences guide a lot of these choices. And so we have an emotional response and psychological response to color. To let you explore this a little bit more offline, Holly's going to share a link in the chat that might be helpful as you think about color. We'll also share it in a follow-up email. But color is important. It's just something to keep in mind. The other thing I want to talk about just quickly is about fonts. We could spend a lot of time talking about fonts, but I'll just say, as for the purpose of today, people sometimes agonize over what to use and what not to use. The key is making things readable. And remember, people are skimming on social media channels very quickly. So a graphic that uses text should have fonts that are large enough and a color that people can easily see, and not too much text. Let me see. I'll share the font later on with you. Thank you for that question. The other thing I'd like to point out is dimensions. This is really important in planning images for your different social channels. Images and visuals that you create are going to be different, need to be different sizes, even within the same platform. So again, we will share this slide deck with you, but the important, so you'll get this. The important thing is to know that when this can impact things like when you're using a photo as background. Part may get cut off if you're moving from a rectangle on Twitter to a square on Instagram. So just one more thing to keep in mind as you're making choices. I think, I have more slides available in here, but I really want us to get some hands-on practice because we've developed some exercises that I think will be useful especially over the next week. At this point, I'm going to pause to see if there are any questions in the Q&A as I move away from the slideshow and into Canva. If you're planning to participate and play along using Canva, then go ahead and have that open now. All right. Holly, do we have questions?
Always recommend sans serif, or is there a place for serif outside of just long form?
Oh, serif, I wouldn't say that one is over the other. I prefer sans serif for presentations. And I think that many elegant designs have a combination of like one serif family and one sans serif. So there's never really I don't think there's an always situation for using one thing or the other. I have found that for our brand with the Institute, we've really settled into a nice use of sans serif most of the time. In body text, we use, like you're saying, like kind of in the narrative piece of it, we'll use serif. But they can be they're really elegant uses in headlines and kickers and things like that. The key is making it readable. If you've got a lot of text or you're doing reverse type, which is where you have like white on a darker color, sans serif can get hard to read. Okay. Are there other questions?
Nothing yet, but I will chime in when we get one. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you so much. Thanks. I missed some during our last presentation. I just want to make sure I don't miss any this time. Okay, so if you're able to get into Canva, canva.com is the web address if you're having trouble getting in. It should be pretty easy to make an account. It should be free. If it prompts you to create a premium account, you can, but I don't. So I'm not suggesting that you need to do that. I'm hoping that we left ample time to get into exercises. I've developed 3 that I think will be helpful. For purposes of time, I will try to manage it so that we have a little bit of time to practice. Maybe you'll complete something, maybe you won't. The key is just to get some hands-on exercise with this. We're using Canva. It's a tool that I like using. I prefer to design in InDesign, but my team doesn't have the hands-on experience, and we do a lot of shared work. Holly and I share a lot of the design responsibilities, and so it's in some ways a little easier for sharing and a little bit easier for doing things, especially quickly on deadline, as we get ideas and have things come up. Some people, some professionals don't necessarily like Canva because it can feel a little like clip art. You'll see that as we get in, but I'm going to talk with you about methods to use this tool that can really help you create some original pieces that that can convey your messages. So let's just get familiar. After you log in, or you can see on my screen if you're following along, you're going to see like your profile is going to be up in the top left. To create a design, there's a button that says create a design. You're going to, on the left top, there's a home button. That's always a place to go. You can look at templates. You can see there are a lot of templates that are available to you. And you can browse by category. One of the great things about Canva and some of the other tools I'll share in the slideshow are that everything is preset for sizes to the most recent updates across channels. So you don't have to keep a list of what all the dimensions are and create things. It'll preset those dimensions. And you can browse by category and type. So we're going to go home. If you don't mind clicking on home. I'm going back to the opening page. I'd like for you to, we're going to try making something just to get the hang of it. So on your screen, scroll down to where it says Instagram posts. Just keep scrolling down. Okay. So we're going to flip through here. We all know Halloween is tomorrow. So we're going to make a little Halloween themed graphic. You'll see some Halloween themed templates already there. So just pick one. It doesn't really matter which one. It's your graphic. I saw one that I liked earlier, so I'm gonna try to find it. Here we go. I'm gonna use this one. This is cute, right? Once it comes up, we'll see that it's cute. Maybe you have a trunk or treat with your kids this weekend, or you have a Zoom costume party with your friends, whatever it might be. Pick something that represents you as closely as possible, but pick something now. You can see that this is preset. The dimensions are preset. This is showing at 27% so that we can see it a little better. Ooh, that's too big. You can resize, kind of like zoom in, zoom out using this tool here. So I'm going to set this at 50%. So yeah, I think I can do that. So the thing here is that, what I want to point out to you, a couple of things. You can click in any of these elements. Can you see this outlined? If you click around on your screen, this is really a hard thing to do when I can't see you as guests and participants. If you click around, you can see each of these elements is a single element. The background is an element. I can move it. Okay, no, I can't. This text is movable. This box is movable. At any point, if you want to undo something, it's the same thing. It's like Control Z or Apple Z, whatever you're using. But this is, while it's there and it's usable as is, it's very flexible in creating a neat design. I was drawn to this because I like the sans serif font. I like that it's blocked out together, and I like the basic color scheme. I don't like these ghosts. They're too cute for me. I don't think of ghosts when I think of Halloween. I think of witches. Maybe that says something about me. Who knows? But the ghosts have got to go for me. So all I'm going to do to customize this is delete the things I don't want, right? I don't want the ghosts. So I'm going to delete them. And there you go. So if there's some element of the graphic that you chose that you don't like, just delete it. We can always replace. So now I'm left with this. Actually move this to a smaller thing. Now I'm left with just kind of like these small boos. I don't know if I like those too much. If I want, I can kind of fill out, you know, the rest of this by copying and pasting and adding more. But I don't really like the boos either. So I'm going to get rid of those. I know, right? I'm just really just deleting everything, probably thinking, why didn't you just start from scratch? Well, I could have, but the whole point is to get a little bit of hands-on experience. So in your screen, like, you know, I want you to practice manipulating the text a little bit, manipulating the illustrations a little bit. I've deleted all of those. Now I think I want to try a different font. I'm not really digging this font. I've decided it's too peppy for me. So now I'm going to try something different. In here, you can see you have a lot of font choices, and this is where narrowing can really help you not get overwhelmed with all the choices that you have. But you can see like easy, very easy for things to change, but just by clicking, definitely don't like that one. I'm looking for something that feels a little Halloween-y. So I like that. That's good. So all I have to do is click, and there we are. Now, is that a big change? Not really, we just changed the font. But in the big scheme of things, it gives it a different feel, which is important to keep in mind. So the other thing I'd like for you to try, so why don't you take a minute and just change a font? And remember, we're practicing trial and error and just trying to get a feel for Canva. If you're used to Canva, this is just an opportunity to kind of play a bit. But for those of you who are seeing this for the first time or don't use it very often, just get your hands around changing a font. So what you do is just click on the box that has the text in it, highlight it, and then go to the drop-down menu that takes you through. And just make selections until you find something that you like. Okay, so it looks like there are a couple of questions in the chat. Let's see, don't have the toolbar. Holly, is that something that you can help Ingrid with?
Yes, Ingrid, I will message you in 1 second.
Okay, Joe, she's got it, thank you. Okay, so hopefully everybody has had a chance. If you haven't, I'm sorry, I want to try to move us along so we can get to some of the more newsroom relevant exercises. So if you haven't yet changed your font or selected one, at least you've kind of worked through how you can visualize that, right? So the other thing is, like, I've deleted all the illustrations and now I kind of feel like this is boring. So I want to look at elements. If you look over here in the far left-hand column, you can see there are a couple of tools here. I'll show you. Uploads, these are images that you upload. So I've got images that I've downloaded uploaded for different graphics that I've had to make. Canva provides millions of photos for you to look through and use. All of these are available for you to use. Most of them are free, but they also have some that are premium that come with a professional account, or you can buy per image. So these are things that you can look through. If we look at Halloween, you can see that there are a lot of different options. When you see this little crown You scroll over it, it says Pro. That means it's a premium photo. But I want you to go to Elements. And once this comes up, you can see I've done a little bit of searching. But you can find, and this is where it gets really fun to experiment. You can see what I've recently used. You can see some featured elements that they've said, and there's lots of different illustration styles. You know, you've got some like hand-drawn illustration. You've got some that are a little more comical. You've got some very different looks and feels, right? And so this is, again, where tone comes into play. You want to make sure that you're selecting images that reflect the tone you'd like to, that best suits your organization. So as I mentioned, when I think of Halloween and I'm making a personal graphic to send to friends, I think of witches. So I'm going to type in witch. And you can see there's lots of different options here. You know, I could put this little lady right here. To resize her, I can just click and drag. And so suddenly she's flying across, but she doesn't really fit my tone. There are lots of different hats, which I think I'm going to go with the hat, but not this one because I don't really, it looks a little, I don't know, it's just not suiting my tone. I don't like it. You get to exercise a lot of personal choices when you're designing, so you have to decide what's going to work for you. The one that I really like is this purple one. You can see I grabbed the wrong thing. Okay, so I'm just going to set this hat right up here on this bar, which doesn't seem like it's that big a deal, but I just want to make the point that this is a much different feeling and looking graphic than the template that I brought up. And you have a lot of opportunity. If you want it, one method would be, if you're designing, if you're using Canva, pull up a template and then modify. Try things until they fit the mood and tone of what you're trying to do. So I don't know if anybody feels good about their Halloween image, but if you do, or if you want to share it once it's ready, you can go to download, and you can download the file in a number of formats. This is kind of cool. Lots of different formats. You can animate as well. So if I wanted the hat and the text to tumble in, it could do that. You can have it come up. I mean, if it looks and feels familiar, it's because a lot of this is meant to be intuitive and in line with some of the other things that you use. I'm going to do none. You can download it. The other thing I want to show you is that if you want to share your test or your work in progress to your Twitter to show everybody that you're learning and trying new things, you can easily click on this little, these dots here, and go to share, click on Twitter or whatever you want to use. We're using Instagram on this one, but you can see that it's attached to my account. I can type in my message and hit publish, and then it's out into the world. So you can do things, you can move really quickly with this tool as well. So I hope that makes sense. I want to see if we have any issues or questions in chat.
Hey Beth, we do have a question. What is your recommendation for putting websites on graphics because they would be unclickable?
It's a really good question. I always lean toward putting URLs on graphics because once they're out in the world, you don't know who's going to be sharing them. Hopefully things are going viral or getting a lot of traffic through sharing and other things. So, you can have something in share text. You can keep your link. You should also have your link in the share text that goes along with something, but having it in the graphic means that whoever gets their hands on it and puts it out there as well, you're not losing that traffic. It will eventually guide people back.
And then a follow-up question, would these be clickable links on the graphic?
Ooh. I don't think so. I think the graphic itself, I may be wrong, but I'll have to check into that and get back to you. We've always included them on the graphic, but then what we're referring to is to content that we're trying to use the graphic to move people to. So when we're sharing, it's already getting people there. Let me look into that. That's a good question. Julie, I think what we're talking about, and here's a good chance to show you the text function. If I wanted to add our website, if I wanted this to be, this is my personal, it's just having the text of the URL on the graphic or within the graphic. And I don't see that, I don't think there's a way to link directly to it. No, I think that's the question, Julie, is that we're trying to sort out, and I'll have to look, and I'll include it in the follow-up email with some of these unresolved questions, whether it's a clickable link. Because as you're sharing this graphic, you're hopefully linking to something from whatever channel you're looking at. Okay. Holly, do we have other questions in the Q&A?
That's it for now, but I will keep you posted.
Thank you. Okay, so let's move to another example. I know we're not all going to be, this is not complete. We're not trying to finish any of these right now, but hopefully just give you some tools to get started. So I'm going to go home. Okay, yeah, we're not all going to get through each exercise, but I want to show you some of these essential functions using the Halloween exercise, and then hopefully give you something you can work on as we go into next week. So our next example, if we want to go back to your homepage, please, is that November 3rd obviously is coming up. It's a big day. Obviously, Election Day is coming. So we are, I think most of us are going to be in a position where we want to publish something about the election that day, but we don't want to start, this exercise we're going to start without the template. If you don't want to do something for the election, a very important national holiday is coming also on Tuesday, and that is it's National Sandwich Day, so you can play around with that as we go through. We're going to do something on the election though, and what your assignment is to make a Twitter post to publish that day. But this time we're not going to start with a template. Okay, so last time we started by finding a template and then modifying it. This time we're going to start in a different method. This exercise is about the process, not the end product. So you're gonna have time to finesse whatever you decide to come up with after the workshop. But hopefully you'll start something that you can use for your organization. So let's start brainstorming. You know, we have to start with our purpose, going back to that concept, starting with our purpose. So right now, think about what your organization needs or wants for an election-focused social post, okay? So some thoughts might be, if you wanna share yours in the chat, that's great, but you don't have to. Some thoughts on purpose might be to get people to follow your coverage going into the evening, your ongoing coverage, and referring people back to a specific page. You may want to get people to subscribe to your news alerts. You may want to, your organization may simply want to encourage people and support them in their right to vote and choose their leadership. If you're a business, you may want to direct people to buy some kind of supporting product for, you know, one of the candidates or the winning candidate. Whatever your reason is, think about what that purpose would be for next week. You know, what would your organization need or want to share? And if you want to do that in the chat, share yours in the chat, it might inspire some other ideas. So for my starting point on this, I'm going to, on behalf of the Institute, start we used a lot of Twitter. We focus our efforts on Twitter. So I'm going to do a Twitter post. As you can see here, I just type in Twitter. There are lots of different options, all sized appropriately for whatever that option is. I'm going to do a Twitter post. And again, this is about process, not finishing this particular exercise, but walking through. The next step after deciding the purpose, so our purpose would be to get people to subscribe to our newsletter, The Latest, which is the daily newsletter featuring the latest in media news, so that people can keep up with how newsrooms are covering the election. So that would be our, like, my specific purpose in designing this graphic for my organization. So as you have, you know, you're starting to define what that might be for your organization or for you as an individual. The next thing would be tone, right? So we have our purpose, we need to define our tone. Well, election day has some pretty specific colors already in mind, right? Like red, white, and blue are the more traditional cover colors for that. The other thing related to tone is, do we want to be, you know, serious in our message? Do we want to be instructive or helpful? Like if you're encouraging people to vote, if they haven't already, then, you know, probably instructional would be a way to go. If you want to be cheeky or playful, that's another, you know, tone-oriented decision. Whatever you decide is fine. It's up to you. You're the designer. So take a minute and just kind of think through what the tone of your organization's election-focused message would be. Young adults voting, good. Business. Okay. Edwin asked a really good question in the chat. If you saved your first design, where did it go? I'll just quickly, as you're thinking about the tone and purpose of your election note, I'll take you back to my home screen to show you. You have on the left corner on your home screen, all of your designs. You click there, and it'll show you everything that you've worked on. So your saved work, it automatically saves, and it also, your saved work is there. So you can see there's the one I just did. Okay. Back to here. Okay, so hopefully you've thought through your purpose, you've thought through your tone. If you want to work along as I do mine, that's totally fine, or you can watch, it's up to you. We're practicing here, we're not looking for perfect. I would argue that perfect doesn't exist in design. Design is just done on deadline or by the deadline, because you could really get hung up on being perfect. So let's go back to our word association, if I can have your attention for a minute, your word association game that we played earlier. I'm gonna say a word, because right now I've got a blank screen and I've got to figure out what my images are gonna be. There's so many options when I think of an election and voting. So I need your help. In the chat, type in what images come to mind when I say election, what specific images. Okay, flag, ballot box, the I voted sticker, iconic. The elephants and donkeys, yeah, very good. The checkbox, excellent. Lines, pizza in the newsroom, always a favorite, Holly. Red, white, and blue, lines of voters, stars, these are excellent. Okay, now I want you to think more specifically about voting. When I say voting, what comes to mind? Excellent. These are all great. Like that, Mauricio says, putting a piece of paper in a box, so like the physical act of dropping a ballot. Fantastic. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So what you've done in the chat is basically curated a list, which you can do this with a group if you have a staff that you can work with or somebody you can bounce ideas off of. You can do this word association game on your own, just, you know, like a minute of focused word association. What you're doing is creating a list that you can use to search within the images and illustrations that you have, either in your organization's archives, photo and illustration archives, or in Canva, as I pointed out You've got, you know, millions of photos that you can go through, elements. So let's just take ballot and do a search. So within the elements function over here on the left column, we suddenly have, you know, a lot of different elements that we could choose from. You see a lot of these are premium because sometimes these are made premium based on timing, and obviously timing of this is next week. So, which is very strange to say, time has really flown this year. But you can see there are lots of different, you know, lots of different images. I'm just gonna click on a few to put them in here. You know, you've got people actually dropping their ballot in. We've got, as I think Laura pointed out, the checkbox. You know, so we have a lot of different options here, and they all have a very different feel, right? A different look, different feel, different tone. So you really have to decide your tone, because otherwise you've got a lot you can choose from that can be a little overwhelming, and it ends up costing you time. So all that planning is a time hack that's important. I'm going to delete these and move over to photo options. And I'm going to type in election. Or, like I said, you've created a fantastic list. I'm going to use Anne's suggestion, actually. Lines at the polls. You know, and these, you know, not as many, right? But it's worth doing the search, because I can see, okay, like maybe if I can find something like this one, it would be great. See that watermark is there, meaning that it's a premium image. But if you like it, you can pay for that image and it's fine. I think it's like $1. Here's one kind of going back to the check mark option, but again, premium image. I think they put a premium on these again because of the timing. But if we go to, but just because we didn't find something there doesn't mean we can't go back to our list, try again and see what we can find. So I'm going to type in election. I found one earlier that I liked. You can see, I really like the iconic I voted sticker. That's the thing that right now is, you know, obviously trending. People are showing off their sticker. They relate to it. And if I want people to do what I want them, you know, if I follow through on my call to action, I want them to identify with whatever image I'm using. So I'm going to use this one. Here's our sticker. And you can see, I'm going to resize this just by dragging. It makes the image larger. And I'm going to pull this down here too. Okay, so now I have an image I like. Fun. But where's the text? What's that going to look like? The next step in this is where you can draw inspiration from templates, but you're borrowing. You're not just taking one and then manipulating it. You're borrowing ideas. So I'm going to look through. I'm going to take my election function off of here, and I'm just going to kind of look through. Oops, go to templates. Look through some of these, and what I'm looking for is, my message is subscribe to a newsletter. This is what you're going to get. Here's where you can find it, right? That's my text. I know that that's going to be my text. So I'm looking for, like, this is not necessarily going to work for what I'm trying to do, right? So I'm going to delete all of that. I'm looking for pods of material, pods of text that I might want to use. Like, sorry, that's my dog. This text is very Halloween focused. This is probably not going to play well. This block is probably not going to play well on an election graphic. Well, maybe this year, but we're not going to use that. So I did spend a little time earlier looking, and what I found is one that might not seem like it's appropriate for an election. Like, I wasn't drawn to this image of meat or fajitas or whatever. What I was drawn to is this bold centerpiece that took me away from the graphic, or sorry, away from the image. It drew me to a headline and some calls to action. The bar in the middle, the limited text, really drew me in to look at what the message was. So I'm going to borrow that. I'm going to simply select those three elements. I'm going to copy by doing Control C. And then I'm going to go back to my image that I'm working on and just place it, right? Easy peasy. But now you can't see it. So now I'm going to put a bar behind it because that's what I was originally drawn to. I'm going to go back to elements. And I'm looking for that rectangle shape. And I'm just going to take this box, put it behind the text. Oh no, we lost some text, right? You can position any of these elements by using position, and you can move things forward, backward, to the front, align it to the page, anything like that. So now I've got my blue bar that's drawing attention, yelling, look here, above those I voted iconic stickers. So now I'm going to type in some text. You know, when you're typing in front of a group, you always mess it up. Not the greatest call to action, but .org. Okay. Oh no, now it doesn't fit. I want to resize this. Easy peasy. Here we go. I'm going to bold this to make it in. Okay. So now I have a Twitter post that I didn't start with something in mind, but I started with a purpose and then defined the tone. And then with your help, just, developed a list of things that I could do word association, based on your word association list. That gave me some word searches that I could do within my photos and my elements that gave me some purpose, and it helped me narrow in on the things that would work best for what I'm trying to accomplish. And then I went to get some inspiration from the templates. So I already had something, and now and a purpose and everything. And then I went in and borrowed this section that that now is holding the message. I didn't have to decide about fonts. I didn't have to decide about anything because I found a group that worked already, and then I moved it into my graphic. I'm not sure we have enough time to play a little bit more within this one. I have one more exercise, and I'm really happy to stay longer, but want to just see if we have more questions or anything. Any notes in the chat? Okay. So I guess the key here with this one, as I said, is like starting with your original purpose, brainstorming those visuals, and then borrowing from the template. What's really cool is that as you start practicing thinking like a designer, you're gonna start noticing things in your real life that will help you, that draw inspiration. It could be a menu, it could be from a billboard. You might see some cool color combinations that you wanna incorporate in your future work. So I have a Pinterest board for that kind of thing, but just you start to have an eye, and that's that's a really important thing, is that you're never going to be perfect. No one is going to be perfect at design. I'm sure some designers would argue, but we're all just working toward getting something done that can be effective. So as we I guess what I should do, I'm trying to think, because it's almost 12:30. I think what I'll do is talk about just, kind of review the hacks that we've talked about. And then if you want, I can hang out a little bit longer. I'm happy to hang out a little bit longer. Does that sound okay? That's what we'll do. This is just, these are 2 of the 3 exercises. We've gotten a little practice in, but the major takeaways I would hope are that when you have endless possibilities, you can easily get overwhelmed. When I look at these templates and I don't think, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make a graphic, and I look at all of these, I'm like, where do I start? Define your purpose and your tone straight away. Especially if you're working in a group or you're designing someone else's idea, that can save you a lot of time up front. Another hack or piece of advice is that these word association games by yourself or with your team, they may seem silly or like a waste of time. They can really help in exploring illustrations and concepts and photos that don't immediately come to mind when you're on a deadline. The other thing to keep in mind is that a lot of design is borrowing, obviously with the appropriate credit or copyright permission. Never just download an image from the internet and use it. You need to check copyrights. If you're borrowing and tweaking, and really changing something to make it your own, you can totally borrow and use inspiration from others. I think a huge, huge piece of advice is to fail forward. I have a Post-it note on my desk that just says fail forward. Trial and error is at the root of innovation and creativity. And you're never gonna know where something could be if you don't try to stretch yourself a little bit and try something different. And you've done that today by participating in this, this workshop. And the other thing is that, as some have pointed out in the chat, there are a lot of tools available. It can be, the whole entire list can be pretty daunting, but you want to get familiar with one or two and try to use those as your go-tos, because you can really develop a good eye, a good palette, and the time. It's like learning a new software program. You're kind of a novice at the start, but everybody knows how to use Word. Everybody knows how to use PowerPoint now. This will become second nature when you practice. The other thing I want to point out is that, I think Holly's mentioned it, we are sending the slides after this. You will have, within those slides, there are probably 6 or 7 that list out free tools. I'm so thankful for those who have shared some of the other tools available in the chat. But I hope you'll take advantage of those slides and let us know. Let's see. I really appreciate, it's 12:31, so I want to be mindful of people who have other commitments. I'll give our close and then I'll hang out for a little bit if you're interested in talking a little bit more or doing another exercise. I do thank you so very much for spending your time with us today. You have a lot of different options for learning, especially in the virtual environment. And I'm really glad that you spent this time with us doing this program and learning along with me. Connecting with the Journalism Institute is one of the best things that I've done in my life. And I'm really, really proud of the fact that we've waived all of our registration fees for programming since March in light of the coronavirus pandemic. That has ended up resulting in a savings of $52,000 for participants in programs like this. If you enjoyed this program, give us a thumbs up by making a donation, or hopefully you'll respond to the survey that you'll receive this afternoon. Holly will send that out, or sorry, I'll send that out after we wrap up. You're going to receive links, the slides, and a link to the video that we did earlier this summer that had more of the design foundations that can help you as you go along on your design journey. So if you have to head out, that's great. I hope you have a great rest of the day. If you'd like to stay on, can you give me a heads up if you'd like to stay on, and we can talk about whether we want to do the next exercise or not. Can you raise your hand if you'd like to stay on? Excellent. Thank you so much. I know some people have to hop off. I so appreciate the time. Okay, I love all these messages. Thank you so much. And if you have questions at any point in time, my contact information is in the slides and you'll have my email address. So just reach out. I'm happy to help with anything. Like I said, I am not a design expert by any means, but I do a lot of it. And I love to experiment and try new things. So, just holler at me if you need a word of encouragement or some help with a particular issue. In the meantime, I think what I'm going to do now is share my screen again. I'd like to do this last exercise because I think it's going to be more in line. If you work on a deadline, then you are going to appreciate this next exercise. It's pretty straightforward, but it can be a helpful just how to. So let's do this. I'm going to share my screen one more time. Go back to Canva. Okay. So our next, let's see, I will leave that guy here. Thank you for sticking around. So we're going to do this last exercise, and if there's any questions or anything I can help with, just let me know. This one's going to be a little bit different, but more in line with probably deadline writers, deadline editors who want to include a visual with their the story that they're promoting. So let's think about a deadline situation. If you need a visual to go with the breaking story and you don't have much in the way of photos, we know that photojournalists have just exquisite work that is probably the best way to draw attention to a story, is to show the people in it. But when you don't have that opportunity, then you have to kind of create something in order to get people's eyes on your work. So what I'd like for you to do now for this exercise is, if you have a news story around you or in front of you or have access to one, just pick it up and select a quote from it. Any quote. We're going to make a quote card because that is a go-to kind of standard for going with a piece.
We have one quick question before we get started. Do we have to credit Canva in our post if we're borrowing their template?
No. No, you don't. It's their use policy is they make it pretty clear that you don't have to credit Canva. I don't think that I've ever seen anything when we've shared using these graphics. I don't even think there's like a tag that says this was made in Canva. So it's helpful that way. Good question. Okay, so if you have a quote, great. If not, I'm gonna go back to our friend, Miss Weintraub. No, let's see. Holly, do you mind adding the Facts Matter quote into the chat in case people want to use that?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we are going to make, we're going to create a new design. I want this to go on my Instagram story. You can choose any design you want. I'm going to use Instagram story. You can see here there's so many options. I hope you spend some time with this later on. Let me type in Instagram story. It's sized properly. This is fantastic. I don't have to worry about going and looking at my dimension chart because it's right here. And I am going to use the quote that Holly has shared here. If you want to use the same, that's great, but you don't have to. Okay. So I'm going to go through the same process. What's my purpose? I'm trying to promote my story that quotes Miss Weintraub. The goal is to get the person to actually read the story the quote is in. The tone of this quote, very straightforward. The punctuation within the quote, if you're looking at it, indicates, you know, strength and conviction. So I'm going to look for something that's representative of that within the templates, because I'm on a deadline. I turn my story into my editor. I need to have this visual ready to go before I'm is ready to publish. So in this case, rather than start from an original, I'm just going to borrow. I'm going to again go back to borrowing from a template. You can see here there are a number of templates that are available for Instagram stories. This is very handy, especially if you're in a business and you're trying to promote things and kind of give things a different look and keep your stuff updated. The templates can be helpful. So I'm looking down here. You can ask questions, you can do quizzes, bingo, very cool stuff. I'm still looking. I saw one earlier that I liked. So I think I'm going to go to recent. Where did it go? Oh no. Let's see. So find one that you like. Find an Instagram story template that you like, that you feel like references or best represents your quote that you've selected. I'm looking through here. What I'm looking for is something that doesn't, you see a lot of these have like floral feel. They have a very like calm vibe. That's great. I'm not really looking for something that I can change the color, but I'm not really looking for photos that have like a lot of pastels in this, especially because this does have, you know, kind of straightforward, nice, you know, feel. I want to find something that's going to be not too busy and that doesn't take away from the actual quote itself. Huh. So I'm going to look through here one more time. I had one earlier that I just fell in love with for this, but as usual, it has disappeared when I need it.
This is a great time for the next question. Is there a way to bookmark designs that you notice while you're working on something else but might want to come back to later?
That is such a great question. So usually what will happen, oh no. Usually what will happen is that, like where it says like all your designs or recent designs, you can see recently used images and recently used items, elements and things like that. I am very sad to say that I don't think that you can flag templates, but a way to like hack that is to just create a new page. Like I have a folder that you can create folders within Canva. So I have a folder that's just like stuff I like. And so I'll create, like we're doing here with this Instagram story. If I like one of these, I might just drag it over. Here, I'll do that right now. Like, see, usually this says recent up here. Like if I went to photos, I don't know why this is taking longer. Maybe Canva has had enough of me today. See, okay, so on photos and elements, you've got this recently used. So I showed you, this is the one I used last time. And then I showed you these. So any that I used are up here, but the templates, it's not the same way, which is unfortunate. So what I think I'll do is just pick one of these. Oh, I was going to tell you my hack. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do too many things at once. If I like something, then I may say, oh, I really like this, you know, an element of this. I like this red squiggly when it appears. So I like this, and I like these dots. I like some of the color here. I don't necessarily, I may not ever need, this is labeled handbags. I may never need that. But what I could do is save this, add a page, just create an inspiration doc, and then just save it into your folder, which you can always access here. So it's a way to save them without flagging. Like there's not a method to just flag them or see what you used most recently, which is unfortunate because I really like the one that I made before. But to this exercise here, we'll just use this one. No, I don't want to do that because it doesn't represent the tone. Standards. Let's just go back to quotes. Let's do that. Sometimes you can narrow. Okay, this is much better. So what I did was, instead of going from the master list of or master set of templates, I narrowed it by doing quotes, and now it's giving me just quote templates. Now I'm going to find what I'm looking for. See, there's a lot of different options. Lots of cool stuff. But a lot of these have feelings like, oh, there it is. I missed a step. So some of these have, you know, the font and the color on this I can change, but it's a lot of work to do that. What I like is this one. This is the one I was drawn to. This was the right example. Obviously, I'm not going to want these flowers, so I'm going to delete them. They're pretty, but that's not what I'm going for. I've got a nice quote. that's very straightforward. Let me pick up a quote. Let's see, where's my quote? Grab all of that. Here we go. I'm gonna put her here. All I'm doing is modifying the template that's already there. Make this a little smaller. And I like this, right? This says what I need it to say. It's there, but it's not really like very interesting looking. So I'm gonna take my favorite part of this quote and I'm gonna change the color to red. And suddenly I've got a much different feeling graphic. If I hadn't messed up on the template and skipped that step, it would have been done within, 5 minutes or so. Just kind of scrolling, finding something that mostly works, and then eliminating and adding where I need to. I'm not going to add any other graphics to this. I'm not going to add anything else because I think that this says what it needs to say. And again, what the goal is to get people interested to read the story. They're not going to get everything they need from that graphic. So that's one more, I guess, method you could use is, taking or borrowing from a template that is there and then modifying and making it your own. That exercise, I think, can be really functional and helpful if you want to start playing and learning a little bit more about where things are within the Canva environment. I would play a lot with the quotes that you use because they can be functional pieces for you. If you are in the position to publish, or if you're promoting a story or promoting something specific, a quote card in any format can be really helpful. And it's really easy because you've already got the content. You're not trying to make something up or strategize or anything like that. You're really just promoting something that already exists. Those are the exercises that I had. And again, I hope that the trial and error is helpful. I would just reiterate that more often than not, you will never feel like something is perfect, but when it's right and it's functional and it meets the goal that you set from the beginning, it will work for what you need it to. And that's, that at the end of the day, that's what design is about. It's about being functional. It's about being helpful and helping people understand the world around them. That's all I have. If anybody has questions or wants to chat about anything, I am, very happy to help with anything. I'll just repeat, you're going to get the slides. You will get my contact information, stay in touch. I hope you have a great rest of the day. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and I hope to see you at a future program. Thanks so much.